Hello, everyone. My name is Brennan Marr. That noise you're hearing is my ventilator, and welcome to Page Turners They Were Not My Star Wars podcast, and what I might be calling Andor Afterthoughts. Yes, indeed, my friends, Andor Season 2. The long wait is finally over. The 2.5 years of waiting for this show to continue. And the first 3 episodes did not disappoint. And I really had to do a lot of thinking after these episodes because there is a lot here. So the reason I call it Andor Afterthoughts is this is not a review. This is me just sharing some of my feelings and the things that stood out to me in the show. Um, so it's not a review. Now, if I were to review it in terms of artistic merit, I mean, as we have come to expect, very well written, um, magnificent character development, really. The subtleties, the twists and turns, and also the outright horror of the Empire. So, as far as artistic work, incredible. The costumes, the sets, my goodness. And of course, the actors are brilliant. So, what stood out to me in these episodes? Well, Andor stealing the TIE Avenger. Oh, I forgot to mention, this will be a spoiler episode. Andor, Cassian stealing the TIE Avenger. The TIE Avenger is great because it's really a reference to the TIE Fighter computer game that from 30 years ago. Also, I like that we're getting to see the planet Sinar. Sinar Systems built a lot of the ships that the Empire uses. And that's a reference that goes way back. And it's very interesting to see Cassian be more encouraging, less selfish, less dour, and more heroic. And of course, I love that he can't fly the ship. He's not very good at it. He's crashing into things. I love that because it adds a little bit of humor to the show. And tonally, that's a little bit different than season one. But as the show is headed toward the light of A New Hope, things are going to lighten up a little bit. But they don't stay light for very long. Of course, at Mon Mothma at her daughter's wedding, There's some political machinations with Lon and Luthen and Tacoma. And everything seems to just go to hell. I don't usually use that word, but everything is just kind of going downhill there. Which leads to Mon Mothma's drunk wedding dance, which is an interesting thing to witness. um, but we have to go to maybe my favorite thing about these episodes. At Star Wars Celebration, Anthony Carboni said it best when he said that Dedra and Cyril are the ickiest couple in Star Wars. And they are. My goodness. Now, many of you may remember, I have made no secret of this. I'm not really much of a person about romantic shipping. But if there's anyone I did ship in any franchise, it's Dedra Nero and Cyril Karn. Their kind of disgusting relationship in season one has blossomed into a full-on official relationship. And it's icky. It is icky. Dedra is, we see her in an interesting light. It's her quarters on Coruscant, in like the upper levels of the city. We see her wearing normal clothes with her hair down, but she still has lost none of her rigidity. Even in a casual state, she is still acting like an Imperial officer. And even her affectionate touch, where she affectionately touches Cyril's face, feels mechanical, feels unnaturally rigid, and not nearly as romantic as she might think it is. And so it's a weird relationship. It is. And I don't even want to know what their romance is like. I don't want to know. But obviously, they're in this situation. Cyril is a cook, by the way. Or he does cook. I don't think she does. Interesting little detail. But then, of course, who comes in to steal the show? Dane Catherine Hunter as Edie Khan. Cyril's mom. Oh boy, having her over for dinner. Then meet the girlfriend. And things go just about as well as you can imagine. Which is to say, not. And, you know, Edie doing the, Jewish mother from hell, her usual stuff. But Dedra is not having any of it. The passive aggressive relationship between Cyril and his mother is completely blown out of the water by Dedra, who is having none of that nonsense. Dedra will openly talk back to Edie. And furthermore, Dedra will put her fascist imperial self into the conversation. And not only does she defend her lover, but in a very imperial way puts boundaries, sets the boundaries for Edie. Now, Edie is a tough cookie. We know this. Edie doesn't seem particularly frightened. Edie seems very defiant, as she usually is. But Dedra puts her foot down, and we'll see where that goes. I have no idea. But it was quite a thing of seeing the softer side of Dedra still being as fierce and controlling as she is as an ISD officer. She doesn't really have a soft side. Other than, okay, she's in a romance with Cyril. But it feels, I mean, I don't know what Sigmund Freud would say, but it feels like there's some weird complexes going on there. I don't know, maybe Cyril likes the bossy fascist lady, but she tells him what to do. I don't know. But regardless, it's icky in the extreme. And Catherine Hunter, as she always does, steals the show in those scenes. It's a weird dynamic, and we'll see where it goes next. Also, we learn, I guess, that Cyril's dad was a kind of an adventurer type. So he kind of randomly took off when Cyril was little. Or maybe even before Cyril was born. We don't know. And Dedra, I guess, if she's telling the truth, her parents were criminals. And she was basically raised by the system. The timeline does present a few questions. But regardless, she would have been probably a teenager when the Empire took over. And it was able to get a hold of her impressionable mind. So we have that. Um, the waiting for Andor, we should call it. Like waiting for Godot, because Andor gets caught by this group of nincompoops who are rebels but can't seem to agree on anything. That might be a microcosm of saying this is what's going on with the rebels. They're all these fractured, bickering cells. And later, Mon Mothma will unite them. We haven't gotten there yet. There's a lot to talk about in these episodes, but the last thing I want to talk about is the elephant in the room. Episode 3, The Harvest. Bix Colleen has already been through the ringer. She survived torture at the hands etc. And now she's got to deal with something even worse. You got it, folks. This is the first time that we have overtly seen someone in Star Wars try to sexually assault someone. Um, it's very difficult to even discuss, and I am not the most qualified person to talk about it. Go see what Molly Damon thinks, Jennifer Landa, Rupert Wilcox, Nani from Triad of the Force, and many, many others, and go and ask them because they are the ones that are directly affected or more directly affected than someone like me. That doesn't mean that it can't happen to me. It just means that women and and queer people and non-binary people have to deal with it more than I do. So I would say go listen to what they have to say. However, for me, it was rather disturbing. I have not yet decided if I am glad it was there or not happy it was there. Point being, she fought back and ultimately killed that Imperial officer. It's a complicated thing. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, other than it is a topic that needs discussing, either in the real world or in uh, art, that these things happen. These things happen all the time. And unfortunately, if I might get political for a minute, there are too many people in our government right now, in the current administration, who have been accused multiple times of sexual harassment or sexual assault. And they are now in positions of power when they should have been cast out. This is troubling because this will empower predators. The Empire is doing the same thing here. It's empowering these kind of people. And that's all I really have to say about that because, as I said, I am not qualified to give an opinion on this. Other than shocking, yes. Necessary, I'm not sure. But it definitely shows another layer of the Empire. Anyhow, those are my kind of thoughts on the show. As I said, this isn't really a review as much as it is just what stood out to me. But as season one demonstrated, season two has started off with the same level of quality. And from what I've heard, it only gets better from here. So those are my thoughts on this week, these first three episodes. 1 year later, Tina and the Harvest. The Harvest, that sounds like a Hunger Games title. In many ways, that's what we're dealing with here. Well, I'd love to hear your thoughts, particularly on that one scene in season three. But that's all I really have to say, and I'm glad that the show is back. It's been a long wait. Some of my predictions have come true, but I'm sure I'll be surprised at other turns. Anyhow, my name is Brennan Marr. Thank you for tuning in to Andor Afterthoughts. Presented by Page Turners They Were Not, my Star Wars podcast. There's a lot more to say, so let me know what you think. May the Force be with you.